that you have taken this opportunity to raise these issues. And let me say this, it comes to Selangor. From the macroeconomic standpoint, from the macro policies involving our commitment to have a transparent government, anti-corruption, or strong position against excesses, we have been relatively very successful. I mean, I would single out Selangor, Penang, because the other states, of course, economically not as strong or viable, say Kelantan and Kedah. So you see, so in terms of our capacity to promote growth and also to implement policies that affect the masses, free water, facilities for education. You know, we have poor Indians in some areas in the estate of Kuala Selangor for the first time given buses, you know, to come to school and free transportation. I mean, that shows there is care, concern. And this has given some sort of level of strong confidence in us that we will, that our services are being appreciated. And I would give credit to even the Menteri Besar. Because it comes to an issue of governance, of a strong stance against excesses and corruption. Like Lim Guan Eng, they've been very tough. And this is acknowledged by the Auditor General and generally not questioned. And I feel quite confident. I don't have that headache of, you know, giving this assurances to the public that we have a clean government and we have these excesses among our leaders. Now, having said that, I would grant in some of these issues raised by Gan and then Mr. Fu later on is quite relevant. At certain levels, we even lacked some experience. I remember the earlier stages, I had to join the Menteri Besar, meeting the presidents or of the local councils, MPAG, MPPG, etc. Because our councillors continue to behave as if they are still in the opposition. And the civil servant had some difficulty in adjusting to this. So they appealed to us to intervene, to remind our guys, look, you can be tough, you can be strict, but you are in government now. You see? So the learning curve is something that I have to acknowledge. Probably in some areas slower. Similarly, like Gan was saying, well, we have advertising firm getting exorbitant profit, for example, the assumption, and therefore we have to cut. But there's also a flaw in that policy. I agree with you. I would say that possibly because of the limited avenues for the state to tax, that you can raise, but you cannot be punitive. You cannot punish people for being successful. You know, and as Minister of Finance, I've always quoted Ibn Khaldun and Wang Angche, the two reformers, one the Muslim in North Africa, the other the Chinese in the Northern Song dynasty. You know, you increase productivity by lowering taxes. You don't increase tax, because you increase tax unnecessarily, unless it is totally essential that you need to survive as a state. But the state is relatively doing well, so I would say, and I will take it to the Menteri Besar the next few days to say, look, there are certain views expressed, and I think we need to view this. And our councillors do, I mean, they mean well. Here comes, you know, this is a tough mission. And at times they need to be reminded, look, you're in the government, you have to, you see, with the business community, you have to be firm. My experience as a finance minister, I mean, they will never agree with you. You talk about housing, if you leave it to them, most of them, I mean, Fu may be an exception, they will never talk about affordable housing or low cost or low medium cost, because it does not generate much income. Neither are the civil servants nor the political leaders, because they don't get commissions. I don't talk about corruption here, commission. You see? So that was my experience. But if you are known to be firm and fair, as you say, look, what do we want? We don't want a position where you have a Malay enclave in Ampang, a new housing block, and no women putras inside at all. So we may need still to impose some conditions. But the conditions, as Ms. Poo said, must be reasonable. You can't say that every single area or single block you must have, because I disagree with the policy to insist on Bumi Putra quota, or to give the Bumi Putra punya dia panggil apa dia panggil benefit 10% deduction, exemption, tax exemption, whatever, for the rich. So you have in Mon Kiara dan sebagainya, projects yang ada 1,5 juta ada Bumi Putra quota. Buat apa? If you can afford 1.5 million, why do you give a 10% deduction? You should use that deduction to help the poorer Bumis. So these things, I mean, I share your sentiment. Affordable housing, yes, or for the poor, but the terms must be reasonable, and then must be implemented in a very effective, firm, uncompromising manner. After, you know, seeking this sort of arrangement. So I think I would grant that. I mean, of course I don't know the details. Yeah? I told Zuraida to take up, because I want to take this as a case study point. After all, you know, I dengar, and saya tak mau jadi orang politik dengar balik habis. So saya nak on record that you raise no reason why anyone, Malay ke China ke Indian ke what, just because they criticize us, that they must be discriminated. Because that runs contrary to our stated policy, and I will not accept that. So which means kalau betul, then I will have to engage them. I can even come down to MPAG. It doesn't matter. I mean, local council. I want to also impress upon them that, look, okay, they say Anwar wants to become Prime Minister, yes, but not at all costs. I wouldn't sell my soul. I wouldn't accept, you know, bribery or ultimatums, particularly if it runs contrary to the stated or stipulated policies. So we will deal with it, particularly when you talk about victimization. It cannot, it should not happen, and cannot ever be condoned under our rule. Okay? You know, when you talk about justice, it's not a philosophical construct. We talk about justice, fairness. You know, it affects. I mean, this what was probably well encapsulated by the vision of Mahatma Gandhi when he said, "Politics of conscience." And I'm close to Gandhi in the sense because my great friend is Rajmohan Gandhi, the grandson. We are in communication, and I meet him often, and now we have a common project together to craft the ideals and the vision. To him is Gandhian, politics of conscience, and my contribution as a Muslim is to say that, look, politics without morality and ethics is obsolete, cannot be accepted. So that is therefore something very fundamental in our mode of thinking and our policy. Now, Siti Rohani brought up a different issue. Cuma I don't want you to be too skeptical. For the reason being, we the party leaders are not experts in all fields, so you are right. And then we need humility. And humility is a scarcity, particularly among those so-called political leaders and those who claim to be very smart. But humility is a very essential ingredient. I used to quote this, one of my great quotes from T.S. Eliot, the great English-American poet. T.S. Eliot, you know, when he referred to the issue of, specifically the issue of humility, said this: a think in the quarter, the only wisdom we can hope to acquire is humility. And humility is endless. Because once you have some experience as a corporate leader, as a political leader, as the great prime minister, the champion of the people, the voice of this, then egoism and arrogance creeps in, and that becomes a disease. So I've often reminded myself and my friends in the leadership to say, look, you must always be open to new views, set up independent, not only civil society organizations, but think tanks, to review every single policy of ours. And therefore now, for example, we have top economists, and experts in various fields coming in. Some, of course, because of the nature of our very oppressive UMNO government, they're not able to declare publicly. You know, you look at Buku Jingga, you look at the papers from Felda, you look at some of my views articulated in the criticism of the budget, actually are views obtained from some of our think tanks. Now, for example, how are we able to articulate a better view